is I don't think half the country is racist, and I don't think all of MAGA is racist, but I do think that there's a huge element in the MAGA party that is racist, whether they are conscious of it or not. Some of them are not, and if they are not, they have had to overlook a lot of racism and a lot of bigotry. And if you do that and you say, I'm okay with this, I think that makes you worse than someone who just says, hey, I'm a racist, and they tell you.
But some of it is just a backlash to what they think was going too far, like all these corporations now that have dropped DEI.
What is up, everyone? In this clip from the Club Random podcast, we have Bill Maher, who is pushing back against Don Lemon's woke insanity. And let me tell you, this is something you do not see every day. In this clip in specific, Don Lemon is going to be defending diversity, equity, and inclusion like it's the gospel. Well, Bill just, I guess, isn't having any of it. But what makes this even crazier is how close Maher gets to just outright agreeing with MAGA on this issue. I mean, if he starts wearing a red hat by the end of this clip, I wouldn't be surprised. So just so you guys understand what I mean, let's just get into this clip without spoiling too much. And of course, throughout this clip, I'll be giving you my unfiltered take. So let's get into it.
Now, in the government, they did it because he ordered...
Backlash for what?
For too much DEI.
I don't think those people understand what DEI is. DEI is not the hiring of black people who are not qualified or
it can
people
be.
who are... No. That's not what it's about.
It can have that result.
But anything can be. Yes, of course it could have that result, but there's no evidence that it does have that result. And
I don't know about that.
Okay, so then what is your evidence? There's no evidence that there is that result. If you can show me the evidence, then okay, then I will agree with you.
Well, I'm not going to name any names.
Okay, but diversity, equity, inclusion, first of all, is not, maybe they're talking about affirmative action, which is a whole different thing, which is about making sure you hired, a certain number of people that are this, that, and that. But diversity, equity, and inclusion is about making sure that the pool of candidates is larger. So if you are fishing, rather than fishing in a swimming pool, maybe you're in a pond. Rather than fishing in a pond, you're in a lake, or maybe you're in a lake instead of a river, or in a river you're in the ocean. So you're just trying to find different people, and you're trying to increase the number of options of qualified people that you can hire. It's not about hiring people who are not qualified and who are just black. The biggest recipient of DEI is white women. And also veterans, because of veterans, and also people who are disabled people. It's just about making sure that disabled people have a ramp somewhere at work so that they get to work and they can,
but
whatever.
Equity is the word, not equality. That it was a change that people noticed. Equality was everybody gets an equal shot. Equity is like, no, it's basically quotas. Equity is it's
quotas. I don't think that America's never been about everybody getting an equal shot.
No, it certainly hasn't been. No one's contesting that.
No.
But that's what the idea, the old school liberal idea was, we need to strive for equality. That changed to equity. This is what some people are against.
Excellent point by Bill, because this is where the entire debate flips. That one word, equity, changed everything. See, equality is what most people grew up believing in. Everyone gets a fair shot, you work hard, you earn your place, and the system should be blind to your skin color, gender, or who you voted for. But equity, that's a whole different beast. Equity says the outcome has to be the same no matter how different the input is. And the only way to make that happen is by force, by rigging the game. And that's where quotas come in. Suddenly, it's not about who's best for the job, it's about who checks the right boxes on a diversity chart. And when you bake that into policy, it doesn't lift people up as some people seem to think. It waters everything down. Standards get lowered, merit gets sidelined, and the worst part, the people you think you're helping, you are not. Because now they get second guessed not only on their abilities, but because people assume they were only hired to meet a quota. It's quite literally damaging to everyone involved. And to be honest, this is the main reason people are rejecting the DEI agenda. Not because they oppose diversity, but because they know equality is rooted in freedom, while equity is rooted in control. One empowers individuals, the other treats them like statistics, and that's where the real issue is. So this is honestly a very deep thinking, but very very important distinction to make so you don't get it mixed up with the fact that, oh, people are opposing, equality, which is not true if they're obviously opposing equity. Of course, let me know your guys' thoughts. I'm not sure if you knew this before, but let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you understand the difference and if you agree with the difference, let me know in the comments. But let's go and get into these big points since this is only the start.
And reasonable people can disagree on it without being racist. Having said that, there are of course racists in this country. There always will be, just like there will always be criminals.
I agree, but I think the people who are disagreeing about it, they need to understand exactly what it is. I think people who disagree may not understand what it is. Now, I have an issue with DEI because I think when you make it a religion, it's not, then you end up with the Al Frankens of the world of people who get canceled and they use the DEI stuff to get rid of people. But I think you have to understand what the real definition is and that people have sort of co-opted it. And I think if you believe, as in the definition that the MAGA Trump administration, that they're saying what DEI is, that is a racist definition of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
What is it? What is it?
They're saying that this is because they're hiring people, women, people of color, minorities who are not qualified. And that's not what is
So
happening.
you're saying no person of color or woman who was not qualified was ever hired for any job?
I'm sorry. Well, no, I'm not saying that.
Oh,
But
it seems like that would have to be the logical conclusion.
But that would be
to
saying that no white people were ever unqualified.
Oh, and we know lots of them have.
Yeah. And so, so when most of the people who are, they talk about the airplanes in the airplane industry, most of the pilots and the people who are white. Most of the doctors in the country where they say DEI, we don't want it. Most of the doctors are white. And so all of those malpractice suits are against mostly white doctors. Most of the planes that fall out of the sky are,
of course,
piloted by white pilots.
Yes.
And so,
all right, I have to step in here because this point is just so bad and makes zero sense. I have to say something. What kind of galaxy brain logic is this? His argument is that most malpractice suits are against white doctors, therefore we should hire based on DEI. That's like saying most car accidents are caused by people with driver's license, so clearly we need more unlicensed drivers on the road. It makes zero sense. Look, malpractice suits are filed against white doctors because, now stay with me here, the majority of doctors are white. That's just how numbers work. It's not some secret indictment of their race. But I guess this is what happens when you're obsessed with optics over outcomes. Instead of asking who's the most qualified, we get obsessed with how many boxes someone checks on a diversity spreadsheet. And also, this idea that DEI is just misunderstood, that if we all just read the dictionary definition, we'd suddenly be cool with it. No, people aren't rejecting DEI because they don't know what it means. They're rejecting it because they do know what it means. Lower standards dressed up as moral progress. And guess what? When you mess around with the standards in medicine, aviation, or firefighting, people die. This isn't just about hurt feelings or representation. It's about life and death competency. You think the average person sitting on a plane cares about the pilot's demographic profile? No, they care that he can land the damn plane. Again, I think this is just a very stupid point because it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Of course, let me know in the comments if you guys agree, but there's only more dumb points to come, so let's go ahead and get into them.
Then what is your issue then with diversity, equity, and inclusion?
I don't have one. The question.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm talking about
okay.
understood you. What is your issue then if there is no evidence that by hiring a bigger pool of people?
No, I think I think there is evidence. There are places. Okay, I will give you an example because we had fires here recently. I mentioned it on my show, so something new I'm saying. But our fire chief was a lesbian, and I said on my show, do I think a lesbian can do that job? Of course I do. Okay. But I think what they did was said, okay, we want to hire a lesbian first, so we're going to hire the best person among lesbians, as opposed to we're going to hire the best person. That kind of thing. Now, I'm not saying that's exactly what happened, but to pretend that kind of thing hasn't been happening in this country,
I don't disagree with you on that.
It's disingenuous.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I shouldn't say I don't disagree with you. I understand what you're saying. But that one example, as opposed to the millions of examples of people who are not diverse, as they say, who have been hired and unqualified, I think that's apples, that's like this and that.
But again, I'm answering to you why people vote for Trump, because if it's you, by the way.
No, you're right. I understand
If it's you, if you think you lost out on something, you're going to be bitter about it.
Yeah.
Like I did a thing once about how political parties are really like your lawyer. That's how people think. Are you going to represent me? So you might think philosophically one way about something, but for example, in San Francisco, they had a pretty woke board there for a while that they got rid of, that they got voted out
Yeah.
because they were discriminating against Asians, and there's a lot of Asians in San Francisco, and they got rid of the like the merit test or the whatever, the genius test, something, because it was too many Asians were getting in, and they wanted to be, and again, this is equity. They wanted the racial quota of it to be. Let me finish.
No,
they
I'm
wanted.
not.
Okay, okay.
I'm about to agree with you.
They
on something.
wanted. Oh, okay. They wanted to be more equal.
Yeah.
So the Asians were basically like, well, we think it's a noble goal to advance the cause of Latinos and Black Americans and lots of other people, but my kid would have benefited from having this advanced program that you got rid of. So you know what? You're not my lawyer. You're not representing me in the court of America. And therefore, I'm going to vote for the other guy. That's what happens a lot.
Bill honestly hits the nail right on the head with what he says here, and this is the part no one on the left wants to talk about. When equality becomes more important than excellence, you start punishing success. Bill references how the Asians were outperforming not because of privilege, but because of the work ethic and cultural values. And instead of raising the bar for everyone, San Francisco decided to scrap the whole system. Let that sink in. A group works hard, crushes it academically, does exactly what the American dream says to do, and the response is, whoa, 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 you have to slow down. You're making others look bad. That is not equality. If anything, that is at least softcore racism with a smile and a rainbow pin. So yeah, I mean, if you're wondering why some immigrants, minorities, and working class folks are turning their backs on the left and voting for Trump, or rather voted and made him president, this is why. They don't see the Democrats as their lawyers anymore. They see them as the ones tearing down the very ladders they climbed to get where they are. And of course, if you think about it logically, it makes sense. So when Bill Maher, a guy who built his career mocking the right, starts echoing MAGA talking points and calling out the woke lunacy live on air, you know the tide is turning. People are sick of being gaslit. They're sick of being called racist for noticing obvious things, and they're definitely sick of watching their kids get punished for being too successful. At least that's just what I think. Of course, as always, I'd love to hear if you guys agree with my points, with the points made within this clip. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, whether or not you agree or disagree. Be sure to give us a like and subscribe, and of course, as always, we'll see you guys in the next one.